Chapter 626, Heart Not Untied. It was only after a long time that Shui Qian'er finally woke up from her reverie and hurriedly asked, "Sister Zhu, do you really mean it?" Li Zhu smiled as she replied, "Whether it's real or false, can you not tell them apart? That mountain peak has been standing there for tens of thousands of years, so how could it suddenly collapse for no reason at such a critical juncture? Furthermore, Ling Tian and Feng Mo's group played a part in this, and you can know the truth by just confirming it with them. Is there a need for me to lie to you?" Shui Qian'er, Yu Bingyan, and Jia Yanzu all fell silent immediately. Ever since she came over, the war between Ling Tian and the Zhao family was a knot in Jia Yanzu's heart. She couldn't help but still have a little bit of anxiousness and grudge. However, upon hearing this news, a sense of bliss suddenly occupied her heart. So it turns out, that Tanj has always been sacrificing for me. But instead, via broken bar I've really disappointed him. Thinking along these lines, she did not speak further, but instead, tears rolled down her face. Shui Qian'er acted in the same manner, her whole face red with guilt. Li Zhu pressed her brows together as she replied, "What are you girls doing? I'm saying these only because I don't wish for all of you to misjudge him. So long as everybody is aware of what he has done for us, it will be fine. Just look at the two of you, even openly crying. Imagine what would happen if that sentimental fool came in. He would be so heartbroken at the sight of you two. And if that's not all, he would even come after me for revenge. What do you want me to do then? Anyway, he has done all this for your sake, and this is his way of embodying his message of love. You all should feel happy because of this, instead of crying." While choking back her tears, Jia Yanzu replied, "Sister Zhu, I am just too happy. A broken bar, so happy that I create a broken bar." Li Zhu was at a loss for words. It was only after a while that she said, "Then today, let us sisters enjoy appreciating the snow and wine." The wine today was specially brewed by Tanj, and it's called Maiden's Heart. I believe the meaning in this does not need to be said further. Today, I'll make it clear to all sisters here, that Tanj works so hard is purely to steal all of our maidens' hearts. Meaning cannot be understood without explaining, and a conversation cannot be understood without speaking. Now that Li Zhu had pierced through the veil covering this reasoning, all of the women present fell into silence. All of them truly felt the heartfelt effort that Ling Tian had put in for them, and their eyes began to redden as the tears began to flow. With her intelligence, upon observing this scenario, Li Zhu knew that none of the ladies present would have any knots within their hearts regarding this point. Thus, this was the time to strike while the iron was hot. She immediately exchanged a glance with Ling Tian. Some matters needed Ling Tian to speak instead, because while she was not the oldest, her position would always be the first. This was something no one could surpass, nor would any of the ladies present dare to. Even the proud and arrogant Li Zhu would not dare to do so. Simply because, if anyone tried to do so, they would immediately come face to face with Ling Tian's full wrath. No one was willing to incur the wrath of Ling Tian, nor did they have the intention. Noting the glance shot towards her, Ling Tian coughed twice, before softly saying, "Little sister Bingyan, little sister, the two of you will be returning to your various families in a short period of time for the generational battle. Inside the battle, you two are even the predestined enemies, with the aim of fighting each other to the death. Is that true?" Yu Bingyan and Shui Qian'er suddenly raised their heads. After exchanging a look, they remained silent, finally nodding. Ling Tian's tone became slightly more solemn as she continued, "Right now, young noble wants me to pass down the message that no matter which one of you, no harm is allowed to befall you two. Not even the slightest injury." The two of them still did not speak, only carrying expressions of respect as they quietly listened. Ling Tian slowly continued, "After this, I'll draft out a separate practice field for the two of you. What we need to do next is a lot, but also very simple. It will be to familiarize yourselves with the skills of your opponent, every last one of them. After that, both of you are to come out with ways to counter them. This point has to be completed within 5 days. The Yu family is already here to escort Sister Bing Yan back, and young noble says that he can at the most delay them for another 5 days. Thus, This is the only span of time you two have left. Time was tight, and both Yu Bingyan's and Shui Qian'er's face turned solemn and heavy. Outside the window, the snow continued to float about, as though it was endless or broken bar. The ladies who have had all their hard knots untied began rearranging the cups and chopsticks again, before serving up the wine and snacks. The ladies then drank till they were dead drunk, leaning upon each other for support, before contentedly passing out and sleeping a broken bar. Only Lizu, with her left hand around Jianzu's head, and her right hand supporting Shui Qian, stared at the fluttering snow in the air. She sighed deeply, and a hint of tears appeared in her eyes even as she muttered, "Danj, this matter that you were most troubled about, I've helped you to solve it." "You a broken bar, are you happy?" She silently sat there looking at the window, sighing ceaselessly in her heart. As a female from the modern era, not only did the husband have to be faithful to the wife, but he even had to go on bended knee to propose before the female would consider the marriage. To think that right now, not only did she have to share her husband, but she was even required to come out and solve the problem of her husband's concubines. Even if she did not say it out loud, Lizu was rather dissatisfied in her heart. However, thinking about the love that she had pursued across 2 lifetimes, as well as the miserable fate she had given him in her previous life, Lizu immediately began to feel ashamed in her heart. Forget it, treat it as what she owed him from the past life. This enemy yet also her loved only a broken bar. It was only after a long time that Lizu fell asleep due to the influence of the wine. Furthermore, it was a deep and comfortable sleep, a broken bar. This snowfall lasted for more than 3 days. On the 3rd day, Yuran and this entourage felt like captured beasts, only able to be seated in an enclosed area worrying about the walls, at their wits' end. Ever since they met up with Ling Tian 3 days ago, the highest ranked people they had seen inside the Ling family courtyard were only those in charge of operations, bringing in wood and necessities for them. For their everyday activities they had to take care of themselves, and the Ling family courtyard did not even give them a single servant to call upon. Their 3 meals were all delivered by someone, and even the hot water, as well as tea, were brought in regularly. As for the reason why they were not provided with any servants, the reply was truly maddening. Ling Tian said that because the Ling family courtyard was a place where everyone earned an honest living, there was thus no servants present. Furthermore, he even infuriatingly added that the elders themselves were all experienced people, able to take care of their own needs, and having servants would only hinder them if they chose to wander around. They ate well, drank well, and even lived well, yet all 4 of them had the impression that they were serving their jail terms currently. While the Ling family did not send anyone to monitor their actions, how would the few elders still dare to walk out? If they were falsely accused of going out to look for happy endings, then they would be throwing all their old faces away. After enduring for 1 or 2 days, an even worse form of torture arrived, which was that snippets of whispering came from the surrounding courtyards around them. The contents made them blow their tops and almost sink into despair. A broken bar. Did you hear? A few experts from the Yu family are staying in that courtyard, and apparently, their grand-elder was defeated by young noble's study aid. You know, that weak guy who always stays beside young noble. And to think they're still considered experts from the Yu family. What kind of shitty experts are those? One could imagine the scorn on the person's face as he was saying "There's a broken bar." Is that true? How could a great elder of the Yu family be so worthless, even failing to defeat a mere study aid? While Jian's status is high, that's because he's the personal study aid of the young noble, thus he receives his favor. A light and curious voice replied. Maybe it's that the Yu family experts are rubbish, right? I really saw it with my own eyes. So how could it be false? It was your bad luck that you missed out on such a show. A short elder was rolled into a snowball by Jianj, and the taller one even got smacked in the face by him, and oh my, the sound was unbelievably crisp. The old man was really embarrassed, like a maiden just about to get married. His face looked just like a peach. This part you might not know, but I heard that these few elders only have an old appearance but not an old sex life. They even asked the young noble where that particular place in Skybearing was. I'm curious to know that when they're doing the dirty deed, will their faces turn red like peaches? Maybe when they go up into a heaven, they'll never come down afterward. Hehe, a broken bar, a round of sniggering could be heard. This type of conversation actually happened a few times, causing the elders to feel like they were going to have a stroke. From then on, all their windows were fully closed, and let alone talking about walking around, they did not even dare to move out of their housey broken bar. The snowfall finally cleared up, leaving the world wrapped up in a layer of white and silver, gleaming beautifully in the skies and lands. Today, Ling Tian woke up early, smiling to himself as he walked towards a certain area. After making a few turns, he came to a chamber with 4 guards tightly guarding the location, before opening the door and walking in. Inside was a table and chair, coupled with a bed, all impeccably arranged. The materials were of high quality, but that was not the main point. The main character was actually a thin old man sitting in front of his desk, a book in his hand as he engrossed himself within. To that point, he was not even aware of Ling Tian's presence, without even the twitch of an eyebrow signaling his notice. As he continued to read, the person was no bystander, but rather Zhao Fengying. In this period of time, Ling Tian practically visited him once every other day, and could be considered a familiar face by now. It's been a long time, Second Master Zhao. I trust that you have been well these few days, Ling Tian greeted courteously, with a mild tone. With your blessings, I've been able to survive. Zhao Fengying did not even blink, merely replying in an indifferent tone. Ling Tian did not even show any courtesy, immediately sitting down on Zhao Fengying's bed. Feeling its softness and warmth, he contentedly let out a sigh as he spoke. That's right, to be able to stay in peace, together with a comfortable bed and pillows, even having enough food and water. There are books to keep you occupied, no noise to bother your ears, and no problems to drain your energy. One can literally live here like an immortal, free of all of bloodshed and politics in the world. To speak the truth, Ling Tian here really admires Second Master Zhao for being able to escape like this. Zhao Fengying only furrowed his brows in response. It was not because of the sarcasm that Ling Tian spoke with, but because Ling Tian was seated on his bed. Zhao Fengying was misophobic, and even when he was out in the field, his requirement to himself was to keep everything clean and tidy. Even though he had turned into a prisoner of war, Ling Tian's apparent lack of restraint made him inwardly angry. However, because Ling Tian had been doing the same thing the last few weeks, Zhao Fengying was also beginning to get used to it. Snorting coldly, Zhao Fengying replied, since that's the case, why don't you also move in and accompany this Zhao? How would I dare to disrupt the peace and quiet of Second Master Zhao? Ling Tian carelessly laughed out loud. I only came here to report something to Second Master. The Zhao family has only fielded 2 million soldiers, and ignoring the chilling conditions, has rushed towards the west for an assault. There's a total of 200,000 men in the vanguard, already nearing the natural stronghold of Heavenly Water Ravine Pass that my Ling family is currently occupying. To hold a battle in this severe weather, there might be a chance that something out of the ordinary will occur, and our Ling family could lose control of the Heavenly Water Ravine Pass. Right now, the morale of the Zhao family is high, and they believe that they have victory in their hands. Ling Tian here congratulates Second Master Zhao in advance. Zhao Fengying could no longer maintain his calm attitude, and his hand landed heavily on the table. His body trembled and his face turned pale. How could this be a congratulatory note from Ling Tian? He was just mocking them for lacking a godly military strategist. Chapter 627, Heart-Attacking Blade. Fighting during winter is the biggest taboo in warfare, especially trying to siege a city during winter, as it was a battle that would be lost for sure. Even if one had 10 times the number of soldiers than the defending party, it would be impossible to successfully take down the city during the winter. Furthermore, The target of their attack was the heavenly water ravine pass. This was akin to a suicidal battle. So what if you had 2 million soldiers? Especially after hearing the words "My Ling family's heavenly water ravine pass" coming out from Ling Tian's mouth, Zhao Fingyang's mouth could not help but cramp up. After a long while, Zhao Fingyang finally came to his senses and shook his head. "I don't believe you. My brother also knows the art of war and will not make such a foolish decision." "You are definitely lying to me," Ling Tian chuckled. "Second Master Zhao is a grandmaster in the art of war and it is only natural for you to not believe me. However, whether or not you believe my words isn't very important anymore. I am not trying to convince you but am only informing you. Besides, you are already my captive and what good would it do for me to lie to you? Do you truly think that you will be able to leave this place? Oh, one more thing. I heard that the overall manager of the army is sect head Meng Chi-hun of Above Heavens and all the experts under him moved out this time. It seems like this sect master Meng truly hates me to the bone." Ling Tian then teased, "Are you interested to know my arrangements? If you are, I am very willing to share them with you." Hearing that the overall manager of the army was the Above Heavens sect head together with the fact that Ling Tian even knew the name and origins of the Above Heavens sect head, Zhao Fingyang began to believe what Ling Tian said. Above Heavens had always wanted authority in the Zhao family army but Zhao Fingyang had always been wary of them. Without him around, if Above Heavens truly held onto the military authority of the Zhao family, their Zhao family would no longer be of any worth to Above Heavens. When he was captured in defeat, Zhao Fingyang already knew that Above Heavens would take this opportunity to take advantage of the Zhao family. Now that he heard it from the mouth of Ling Tian, his heart clenched up in nervousness. He then replied calmly, "It is your choice if you want to talk about your plans. Besides that, what has your plan got to do with me?" Ling Tian smiled mysteriously as he said, "My plan is actually very simple. I only ordered the guards of the Heavenly Water Ravine Pass to seal the city gates towards the southeast. I ordered my troops to first crush the enemies with rocks before pouring freezing water down onto them. My troops have already collected all of the snow inside the pass and filled up 5,000 large pots. Ha ha! I have increased the number of elites in the Heavenly Water Ravine Pass to 50,000 men and apart from that, I stationed another 400,000 men in the valley of the Heavenly Water Mountain." Ling Tian looked at Zhao Fingyang merrily. "Second Master Zhao, do you think that the little troops of mine would be able to defend against the crazed attacks of the Zhao family's army? You are a grandmaster in the art of war and I trust your judgment." Zhao Fingyang could no longer keep his cool and shut his eyes in agony. Melting snow into ice isn't anything special and even dousing the enemies in boiling water was an ordinary defensive method. However, the weather was at its coldest and this method would be extremely effective. When the Zhao family attacked the city, there wasn't any need to pour boiling water on the soldiers as pouring the melted snow would be equally effective. In the freezing weather, as long as the melted snow was poured on the soldiers who didn't take off their armor in time would be frozen to death with their armor. Even if the soldiers wanted to take off their armor, they would definitely peel off a layer of their skin. Regardless of the sacrifice that the Zhao family made and how many layers of city walls that the Zhao family broke through, it wouldn't matter as long as the pass was held in the hands of the Ling family. All the Ling family needed to do was to pour water on the walls and after a night, all of the damage done to the wall would be filled up by the frozen water. On top of that, Ling Tian had already increased the number of soldiers stationed in the pass to 50,000 men and had even arranged for reinforcements of 400,000 men. With the narrow terrain of the Heavenly Water Ravine Pass, they would only be able to send a small batch of soldiers up to siege the city in waves. Not to mention the 2 million man army of the Zhao family. Even if they added another 2 million soldiers, it would be impossible to take down the pass during the winter. Originally, the experts of Above Heavens might have been able to sneak into the pass with their martial arts to open up the city gates but Ling Tian had already sealed up the city. Ling Tian's single move had completely destroyed the final hope of the Zhao family. Zhao Fingyang sat motionlessly in a daze and a look of hopelessness could be seen in his eyes. Ling Tian stood up and cupped his fists. "Second Master Zhao, Ling Tian only came here to report to you about these military affairs. Now that my report is over, I shall not disturb second Master Zhao any longer. I shall take my leave." He then smiled and walked out proudly. The entrance to the stone chamber was slammed shut. Zhao Fengyang's body trembled and his previously straight back slowly curled down. In that instant, he seemed to have aged greatly. The Zhao family broken bar finished. A long desolate sigh came out from Zhao Fengyang as he sat on the ground hopelessly. However, was what Ling Tian said really the truth? Of course it wasn't. Apart from Ling Tian's plan to deal with the Zhao family being real, the news of the Zhao family attacking them was not. Ling Tian did not want to wipe out the Zhao family and never had such a plan. This was something that he had decided a long time ago. Old Master Ling and Zhao Fenghan were sworn brothers, and while Zhao Fenghan betrayed Old Master Ling, Old Master Ling still placed a great deal of importance on this sworn brotherhood. As he grew older, Old Master Ling would reminisce about the times when he was young, and his adventures with Zhao Fenghan were some of the happiest memories of Ling Tian's grandparents. However, these two elderly Lings only watched from the side and did not interfere with Ling Tian's plans. They did not want and were not willing to add another huge burden on the tender shoulders of their grandson. Thus, the two Lings did not do or say a thing. However, just how intelligent was Ling Tian? Every time he went back to the Ling residence and talked about the situation of the continent, his grandparents would obviously be depressed when he mentioned the Zhao family. After the battle with Zhao Fengyang, Ling Tian could see how his grandparents had visibly aged. Ling Tian was not a fool and would understand the reason behind this. The two of them were already old, and if their sworn brother's family was extinguished by the hands of their grandson, these two would probably be unable to take such a blow. At that time, if something untoward were to happen to his grandparents, it would be too late for Ling Tian to regret. Ling Tian was not willing to give them any more blows. Thus, Ling Tian had always been looking for a way to perfectly settle this matter. As for the reason behind cooking up this lie to Zhao Fengyang, it was Ling Tian trying to assault Zhao Fengyang's heart. Ling Tian would first throw Zhao Fengyang into despair before giving him hope. It was akin to giving him the cane before giving him the candy. This was what Ling Tian was best at. As an important character in the Zhao family, the meaning that he had to the Zhao family was even above that of the family head Zhao Fenghan. At the same time, his attitude would also be crucial to changing Zhao Fenghan's attitude. As long as Zhao Fengyang gave in to Ling Tian, there would be hope for his plan to succeed if he also had the help of Zhao Yanzu. Over the past few days, Ling Tian had slowly inched nearer and nearer to his plan. He first talked about the information that he collected, the deployment of troops and supply of grains. Because none of these were false or exaggerated, a seed of truth had already been planted in Zhao Fengyang's heart, and Zhao Fengyang truly believed that war was imminent. After lying about the large reaction of the Zhao family today, it was indeed effective. Naturally, if Zhao Fengyang did not fall into his trap and refuse to submit to him, Ling Tian would have no choice but to take a risky move and send out all of his experts to wipe out above heavens. If the biggest supporter of the Zhao family was wiped out together with a few threats from him, there would still be the chance for him to subdue the Zhao family. However, this plan would have to be shelved for the moment. The strength of above heavens couldn't be underestimated, and it would be a dream to wipe them out without paying an appropriate price. Furthermore, even if above heavens was wiped out, the Zhao family might not surrender immediately. After all, they still had their 2 million man army. The second reason for him to make such meticulous plans would naturally be because of Zhao Yanzu. Since he had already accepted Zhao Yanzu as his woman, Ling Tian wasn't willing to see his woman lead a miserable life or have a knot in her heart. If the other party was his enemy, Ling Tian could use the most unscrupulous and vicious means to wipe them out. But if he wasn't able to coax his own woman, he would not be a man. These were Ling Tian's principles. Ling Tian then planned about how he should report to Zhao Fengyang about the annuished battle situation as he left with delight. Yu Manlu's resolute attitude was shown at this very moment. After receiving Ling Tian's letter, Yu Manlu pondered for an entire night before finally making a decision. 3 days later, Ling Tian received news that all of the men, women, and children of the Lei family who were in Bright Jade City had been killed without mercy. Their deaths were extremely miserable and the killer was unknown. The killer only used fresh blood to write on the wall, A blood debt shall be paid in blood. Those who provoke Ling Tian shall have their family wiped out. As this matter was spread, the whole world was shocked. Everyone knew about the Lei family attacking the Ling family, and with the bloody words on the wall, the deaths of the Lei family would naturally be attributed to Ling Tian. There were many who were frightened by Ling Tian's viciousness and some who were furious. Taking his revenge so openly through the employment of such vicious means had truly stirred the continent. Ling Tian even had signs of becoming the #1 public enemy of Broken Bar. It was reported that Yu Manlu was devastated about the death of his alliance mate and personally arranged a majestic funeral for the Lei family. It was said that as he read at the eulogy, tears streamed down his cheeks and he was visibly agitated. He swore to the heavens in front of the public that he would seek justice on behalf of the aggrieved souls of the Lei family. After Ling Tian heard about this incident, his suave face cramped up in disbelief and he let out a bitter laugh. The old ginger is truly spicier. Yu Manlu's move was truly devious but extremely effective. Ling Tian could not help but give Yu Manlu a thumbs up. Chapter 628, Bing Yan returns home. Ling Tian's original plan was to have Yu Manlu step out and kill off all the Lei family remnants. Then Ling Tian would take the chance to announce to the world his misdeeds and sully the reputation of Yu Manlu. The best scenario was to completely isolate him, thus allowing himself to achieve an easier time in the final battle. Furthermore, what Ling Tian asked for was the heads of the Lei family members. Inside his plan, Yu Manlu would need to personally deliver the heads, and by that time, there would be no way for him to deny this accusation. How would they know that Yu Manlu would actually act so shameless? Although they did not meet, Yu Manlu evidently saw through Ling Tian's scheme and countered it immediately. You told me to bring over the heads, but you didn't mention I had to do it in person. Now that the heads have been taken, all I just need to do would be to write a few words on the wall. I have the freedom to do so. Broken Bar. In this manner, he had instead pushed Ling Tian to bear the brunt of the accusations from the public. To go for wool but end up being shorn. This was the exact feelings of our young noble Ling Tian. Truly an old fox. A scheming and wily old fox, Ling Tian viciously cursed. However, he suddenly laughed out loud. One would not have the ability to take benefits from every opportunity after all. I had actually wished to borrow the matter of the Lei family to flaunt my influence, with the intention of warning everyone before taking advantage of the situation for my own benefit. This would push the Yu family to the point of no return, and they would be forced to take the path labeled as deviance of society. To think that Yu Manlu would actually be so scheming, to convert a dying situation to counterattack, using my name to accomplish the task. He not only completed my request perfectly, and he did not even compromise a single bit of the Yu family reputation. Indeed, my destined foe. Ling Tian let out a bitter smile, as he thought that this might not be a bad thing even though he did not achieve his ideal scenario. At least in the future, if any of the families had evil intentions against them, they would first need to consider the ending of the Lei family. In this world, how many families could boast that they had a force stronger than the original Lei family? Whichever was the case, even the evildoers themselves would fear another evildoer. With the precedent of the Lei family, who would dare to make a rash move? Even if they had the intention, they would not have the guts. However, Ling Tian was still feeling a little troubled. So in this manner, did he benefit this time or did he suffer loss? This debt was really difficult to calculate. Yu Manlu not only successfully resolved his problem this time but also managed to counterattack. While he got rid of the Lei family once and for all, they both did not manage to do any lasting harm to each other, only managing to feel each other out. 3 days later, the two elders from the Yu family came back. This time, Ling Tian did not make any excuses, but instead straightforwardly dispatching 500 of his troops to accompany Yu Bingyan as they escorted her to Bright Jade City. As a precaution, Ling Feng, Yan, Lei, and Dian dressed up as part of the troops to infiltrate and protect Yu Bingyan on her journey. Her original bodyguards, the Zhu brothers, had perished in the battle against the Lei family, and Ling Tian did not feel comfortable leaving her safety to outsiders even if they were from her own family. Furthermore, the 4 Ling bodyguards had received personal coaching from Justice himself, and after consuming the flood dragon inner pellet they experienced a huge improvement in their inner strength. Since they had already acclimatized to the huge increase in strength, Ling Tian believed that even if an army of 10,000 came along, they would still be able to ensure that not a single hair of Yu Bingyan's head would be harmed. In addition, now that Yu Bingyan herself could cultivate, she had achieved a strength that could be comparable to the Feng and Yun brothers. With these 5 great experts present, how could they be stopped by any mere motley power? This was especially so considering their unique ability, which was that they were able to completely conceal their own strengths. The 4 Ling brothers even received teachings from Justice on how to properly control their breaths that would even make Ling Tian ashamed of his own skills. On the surface, the 4 of them only exuded the strength of a first-rate expert in the Hutian stage. Of course, if one took their age into account, this was something that was already outstanding. As for Yu Bingyan, she was in the midst of recovering and had coincidentally opened her own conception and governing meridians. After absorbing the various remnant medical efficacy left in her body over the years, her own strength immediately shot up to the Xiantian realm, giving her a vibrant appearance. Just with the basis of her current cultivation, she did not lose out to Ling Chen nor Shui Qi honor. In addition, having practiced the secret manual, the mysterious Yin Essence Heart Sutra that Ling Tian had gifted her, it suited her innate Yin constitution greatly. While the technique might not possess a destructive strength, it was the best at concealing one's cultivation. As such, Yu Bingyan did not appear to have improved greatly when compared to her past self. Ling Tian added another layer of precaution, asking Li Zhu and Ling Chen to infuse a pure strand of frost true energy into her body. 1. This could act like the symptoms of her ailment, where it would retaliate if someone used their true energy to probe her meridians. The second point was that these 2 strands could turn into Yu Bingyan's secret weapon. Knowing that it was the time for her to leave, Yu Bingyan became extremely crestfallen. She first went over to the Ling family in Skybearing to bid farewell to the elders, crying out rivers of tears. Before she actually left, she also ended up hugging Li Zhu and Ling Chen, bawling out loud. Ling Tian also felt a little sour in his heart, but he forcibly endured it. It took him quite the effort to coax Yu Bingyan up into the carriage. As the carriage left, Yu Bingyan continued to lean halfway out of the carriage, all the while waving. After he sent Yu Bingyan off, Ling Tian also began to get busy, and furthermore, he was overwhelmingly busy. The current Ling Tian could only hope that he could take care of all his current affairs and matters, and run over to the Heavenly Wind continent to take refuge. Even without him, following the successive victories of the Ling family army, first swallowing southern Jing, then conquering eastern Zhou, the entire half of the country had already been occupied by them, their positions stable. This would be the time for them to sit back and digest, allowing the place to return to its former peace as well as for the wildlands to give rise to life once more. In view of such circumstances, all the various officials in Skybearing became restless. This included the overwhelming majority of those in Ling family courtyard. On this topic, Meng Liege was one of the most resolute. It was about rushing the Ling family to quickly take on the title of a dynasty, establishing an empire. This would allow the future generations of the Ling family to hold formal authority, and be raised as an emperor. Because of this matter, the people were bubbling over in excitement, causing Ling Tian to be at a loss for words. If one decided based on seniority, then naturally Grandpa Ling Zan would be the most suitable. However, his attitude was extremely firm against this decision, stating that he was already old and muddled, and did not have that many years left to live. It would be better to ask Ling Zhao to hand over command of his troops and return back to Skybearing to accept the appointment of the emperor. However, our dear Grand Marshal Ling was even more resolute. Anyone can be the emperor, but definitely not me. Give it to that brat Ling Tian. Ling Tian now naturally had his own reasoning. Above me, there's my father and even my grandfather, what I am worth compared to them. If I really ascend as the emperor, then wouldn't I have to receive the pointing and scolding of everyone under the heavens? Such an unfilial act unbefitting of a ruler, treating his elders as though they did not exist. How could he bear to perform it? Better to hand it to grandfather instead. Just like that, the position of emperor was kicked around by the 3 generations just like a rubber ball. None of them was willing to sit on the throne. In this manner, everyone was thoroughly exhausted by them. Ming Liji even tried to invite the great Mr. Qin, who had already secluded himself from politics and worldly affairs, but to no avail. Instead, he gave Ling Tian the chance to invite Mr. Qin over to the Ling family courtyard to live out the rest of his retirement in luxury. However, the true purpose was to thoroughly milk that poor old man of his surplus value. Helplessly, Ming Liji could only resort to doggedly following behind Ling Tian every day and nagging continuously, causing Ling Tian much misery. However, every method has a way to counter it, and the cunning Ling Tian was just like a sly rabbit who has 3 burrows. He started to avoid Ming Liji as though he avoided ghosts when he saw them, running as fast as he could in the opposite direction. Under his supreme movement technique, Ming Liji naturally could not even manage to catch his shadow, making the old man depressed. Bright Jade City, Yu family. Yu Bingyan slowly got out from within the carriage. As she stared at the majestic decorated archway of her front gate, she could not help but feel her emotions fluctuate. That year, she brought with her the intention to face death as she walked out of this place, ready to squander all her wealth and live the rest of her life in luxury. However, she actually met with her loved one as a result, obtaining the most sincere love and bliss. What was even better was that the illness that plagued her for 18 years had actually vanished for good. Standing here right now, she suddenly felt as though her past few years were like scenes from a previous lifetime flashing past her eyes. In the great hall, Yu Man Lu, Yu Man Tang and Yu Man Tian looked at Yu Bingyan as she walked in, an emotional look on their faces. A trace of guilt actually flashed past Yu Man Lu's face at this time, but it instantly vanished. Yu Man Tian boomed out loudly as he laughed, and Yu Man Tang could not help but walk down a few steps. As he gazed at his daughter's figure, his expression was anxious and her figure trembled. Daniel Broken Bar. Yu Bingyan let out a soft cry as she pounced in front, right into the arms of her father. Yu Man Tang's eyes got a little wet as he hugged his daughter tightly. Yanner, come, let father look at you. Did you lose weight, my good girl? A broken bar? You've really suffered a broken bar. Yu Bingyan's tears slowly dripped down. Yu Man Tang looked at his daughter as he slowly sized her up, his eyes revealing boundless affection. Yu Man Lu stroked his beard as he happily watched the father and daughter reunite. Suddenly, he discovered something, and an incredulous look filled his face. Second brother, Bingyan, a broken bar? Her illness has been treated? Yu Man Lu exclaimed in joy, but it was also laced with some suspicion. Bingyan, a broken bar? Upon hearing this, Yu Man Tang too discovered the anomalies in his own daughter. The lack of the frost energy that always accompanied her. An expression of ecstasy filled his face. Bingyan, you've truly recovered? Danj knew about my terminal illness from the start, and he did not spare any price to bring about various famed doctors as well as treasured medicines. It was just that they could not do much. Finally, Tanj got the beyond heavens justice to personally act. The divine black negative meridians turned out to be domineeringly strong, to the point that even justice could not do much. However, he indeed holds the reputation of the number 1 person. He actually used his internal energy to forcefully lock the frost energy within the divine black negative meridians into a small portion of my body. While he couldn't remove it completely at once, and there will still be repercussions, the frost poison will not activate within the next decade as long as there are no unforeseen circumstances. Compared to the situation of the past, it is akin to heaven and earth. As she talked about this, Yu Bingyan had a sweet smile on her face. Regarding the matter of her illness, they had long ago come to a consensus that the great cyclic ballot, as well as the inner palliative the flood dragon, were definitely matters that could not be spoken about. The cultivation levels of Ling Tian, Ling Tian, and Li Zhu were matters that could not be revealed either. After much consideration, they could only pin the source of the cure on justice. Chapter 629, War of Words. However, such a method would not uproot the divine black negative meridians, and even if the divine black negative meridians don't act up again, they still exist in my body. Senior Justice also gave me another cultivation sutra named a Mysterious Yin Essence Heart Sutra. With the training of the Mysterious Yin Essence Heart Sutra, it is useful for suppressing the divine black negative meridians. As long as I do not purposely agitate them, the divine black negative meridians will lay dormant for a relatively long period of time. As long as I properly cultivate the Mysterious Yin Essence Heart Sutra, there is a chance for me to even purge the frost toxins in the future. I see. This is truly the fortune of my Yu family. Yu Manlu laughed heartily. The three brothers only had a single daughter or niece, and Yu Manlu also greatly doted on Yu Bingyan. The moment Yu Manlu saw Yu Bingyan and thought about how she was extremely obedient since she was young, Yu Manlu was immediately filled with love and tenderness. Everything was fine as long as the one who cured Yu Bingyan wasn't Ling Tian. If Ling Tian could even cure the divine black negative meridians, Yu Manlu would have to reconsider his evaluation of Ling Tian. As for Justice curing the divine black negative meridians, Yu Manlu wasn't too surprised by this. After all, it was only natural for the number one expert in the world to have such abilities. Yu Mantang still couldn't be at ease and grabbed Yu Bingyan's wrist and sent his inner chi into her body to investigate her condition. Father, no. Being caught off guard, Yu Bingyan was immediately anxious. The icy inner chi within her body wasn't to be underestimated, and she was afraid that her father would be harmed by it. Before she could finish her sentence, Yu Mantang trembled and he unsteadily took 2 steps back with a pale countenance. He never expected that his warm inner chi would suddenly meet 2 waves of extremely icy inner chi, and half his body was almost frozen. Only after he let go of Yu Bingyan's wrist and circulated his inner chi for a few cycles was the chilly condition dispelled. What a powerful frost toxin, Yu Mantang said with lingering fear and worry. Yanner, with such a powerful frost toxin in your body, how will you be able to endure it? Through his probing, Yu Mantang could feel that the divine black negative meridians in Yu Bingyan's body didn't weaken in the slightest but seemed to have flared up instead. He couldn't help but be filled with worry for his daughter. I am fine, father. Yu Bingyan smiled. Although the frost toxins in my body seem to be more severe, it is only because Senior Justice used his inner chi to suppress the divine black negative meridians. The frost toxins are no longer a huge burden to my body, and with the aid of the Mysterious Yin Essence Heart Sutra, your daughter will be able to deal with it. After the excitement in her heart from returning home died down, Yu Bingyan could not help but recall the days she had in the Ling family courtyard and Ling Tian's warm embrace. That's great for you to receive the aid of a peerless expert from beyond heavens. It shows that my daughter is a fortunate individual. It seemed like Ling Tian truly put in a great deal of effort as well. Yu Mantang nodded his head with gratification. Looking at his daughter, a merciful and doting look could be seen on his face. As the second master of the Yu family, he naturally understood how difficult it was to invite Justice to take action. He was sure that Ling Tian would have definitely needed to pay a huge price to invite Justice. Seeing the strands of white hair on her father's head, Yu Bingyan felt a stabbing pain in her heart. When she left home, her father's head was still a silky black color, but after a short half a year, his hair had actually whitened greatly. It was obviously because of him worrying constantly about her all the time, and it was all thanks to her being unfilial. Yu Manlu coughed twice, took a few steps forward, and stroked Yu Bingyan's silky hair. At the same time, his gaze was filled with a myriad of emotions including pity, guilt, shame, resolution, and even killing intent. Yanner, Uncle is also glad to see you return safely. You are back to participate in the generational battle between the Shui and our Yu family. As a member of our Yu family, there are some responsibilities that you cannot push away. You have to prepare yourself mentally for that. Since you had the fortune to receive a mysterious skill from Justice, you may be able to turn things around. Yu Manlu hesitated for a moment before finally talking slowly. At the start, he spoke slowly as though he was hesitating about something, but he gradually spoke faster and faster as though he made a decision. Yu Bingyan felt a tinge of coldness in her heart as she said gently, I wonder what kind of responsibility Uncle is talking about? What does Uncle mean by turning things around? A glare shone in Yu Manlu's eyes and he said slowly, for a family to survive for 1,000 years without falling, countless sacrifices and hardships must be endured along the way. How can a person who does not belong in an aristocratic family understand the bitterness and sourness of the rise and fall in a family? Currently, the family has already reached its peak and the Yu family has never reached such heights before in history. However, a huge enemy also lies before us at this moment. Yu Manlu's eyes were vacant as he sighed. The enemy that our family is currently facing is also an enemy that our family has never faced before in 1,000 years of development. Thus, in order to defeat the enemy and ensure the prosperity of our family, we need to pay a certain price. Regardless of whether or not we are willing to pay this price is a necessary one. As a member of the Yu family, no one shall be allowed to avoid the matter. Even if it is me, your father or your third uncle. As long as the family needs us to sacrifice ourselves, we wouldn't hesitate in the slightest. Bingyang, as the only daughter from the direct descent of the family, even if you were lucky to receive the teachings of the number one hidden sect, as a member of the Yu family, you have no choice. Yu Bingyan lowered her head, afraid that Yu Manlu would see the proud look on her face. That's right. She had a look of pride. The powerful enemy who their Yu family had never faced before in the past 1,000 years was without a doubt her Tanj. Yu Bingyan said in a soft tone, First Uncle is trying to say that Bingyan will have to pay a price in the upcoming generational battle. I wonder what kind of a price Bingyan will have to pay? I hope that First Uncle will enlighten me. Yu Manlu turned around and did not wish to continue looking at Yu Bingyan as he said with a heavy tone, The battle between the families will be a battle of life and death. The date of the battle has already been set and it cannot be changed. Since you have spoken out openly, I shall not hide anything from you either. While the divine black negative meridians in your body have been suppressed by Justice's mystical might and you even received a legendary secret manual, you have not come into contact with martial arts for the past decade and you are like a blank sheet of paper. You don't have to worry about victory or defeat when facing the little princess of the Shui family, but the price that you will have to pay will probably be the price of your life. Yu Manlu suddenly turned around with a burning gaze. This is the arrangement of destiny. I know that you are unsatisfied and unresigned, but I do not wish to lie to you at this very moment. I only hope that you will prepare yourself for it. Regardless of the reason, you are still my niece, and even if I have to send you to your death, I want to give you an explanation first. The atmosphere in the hall immediately became chilly. Yu Mantang turned around with a desolate expression and his eyes shut. The joy from his daughter's illness being cured could no longer be seen. He originally wanted to risk the fury of his big brother and sneak Bingyan out of the Yu family, but he never imagined that Yu Manlu would see through his plans and openly say his piece at this moment. The moment Yu Manlu said his piece, it would be the decision of the family and the decision could no longer be changed. Even if Yu Mantang didn't want to face the decision, he had no choice but to accept it. If Yu Mantang still thought of sending his daughter away at this moment, it would be akin to betraying his family, and this was something that Yu Mantang would never be able to accept. A bitter smile could be seen on Yu Bingyan's face. She knew that her first uncle would definitely show his cards during this trip of hers, but she never expected him to show his cards this quickly. It seemed like her first uncle could not wait to send her to her death just so he could give Ling Tian a blow. Half a year ago, her first uncle sold her out for the ambition of swallowing the Ling family. Today, he wanted to make use of her to strike a blow at the Ling family and her husband. So what if she was Yu Manlu's flesh and blood? I won't let things go your way. Ever since I was young, Bingyan understood my destiny and knew that I was the main character of the generational battle. Bingyan already understood that I had to sacrifice for the family. A broken bar, Yu Bingyan said in a righteous manner. Yu Manlu's face turned dull as he heard that, but he was elated in his heart. Yanner is truly understanding a broken bar. However, he never expected Yu Bingyan to interrupt him with a sneer. However, First uncle seems to have forgotten something important. Things are no longer like before. When first uncle talked about the Yu family disciples, it includes everyone within these premises except for me. While she had already made relevant arrangements to deal with Yu Manlu's demands, Yu Bingyan could not help but speak at the words of her heart. Ever since she was young, she had always been filled with fear and reverence for her first uncle. But at this moment, Yu Bingyan no longer had a single trace of fear. Oh, Yu Manlu's expression changed and his cold gaze shot over, lowering the temperature in the room. Niece Bingyan is trying to say that you do not acknowledge that you are a Yu family disciple? Yu Bingyan lifted her head up proudly. This niece is already Mrs. Ling. Preposterous. Yu Manlu flew into a rage and slapped a chair beside him. With a loud "pa" sound, the sandalwood chair was reduced to dust. Even if you are married to Ling Tian, you are still Yu Bingyan. The first word of your name is still Au. Yes, if this was half a year ago, that would be the case indeed. A mocking smile could be seen on Yu Bingyan's face. At that time, if Bingyan died, I would have to be buried in the tomb of the Yu family. But now, even if Bingyan dies, I can only be buried in the Ling family's tomb. Yu Bingyan took 2 steps back and glared at Yu Manlu without backing down. As the family head of the Yu family, first uncle can naturally give an order to the daughter of the Yu family. If Bingyan does not remember wrongly, first uncle instructed third uncle to propose a marriage to the Ling family and form goodwill between the families even if Bingyan was a concubine. Yu Manlu's face flushed with awkwardness, and despite what Yu Bingyan said being the truth, Yu Manlu refused to admit it and roared instead, that was just a stopgap measure. How can it still count right now? The matters of today cannot be compared to the matters of yesterday. As the daughter of the family, Bingyan can naturally sacrifice anything. It was the same back then even if I had to become someone else's concubine. However, the Bingyan today isn't the Bingyan from yesterday, and I am already the daughter-in-law of the Ling family. If the Ling family wants me to sacrifice myself, I can only sacrifice myself for the Ling family. I hope that first uncle will remember this. A woman who marries out is like a tub of water being spilled out. I, Bingyan, am already a member of the Ling family. Pa. Yu Manlu had no retort to Yu Bingyan's words and swung his arm out to give her a tight slap. Chapter 630, Intense Argument. Yu Bingyan's cheeks immediately swelled up and her hair was in a complete mess. However, she still glared at Yu Manlu stubbornly without the slightest intention of backing down. Second brother, look at your good daughter. Look at how she has turned out. She actually dares to spout such heresy and forget her ancestors. Yu Manlu roared with his veins all bulging. Both Yu Mantang and Yu Mantian looked at each other, and what Yu Bingyan had said finally sunk in. That's right. Yu Bingyan was already the daughter-in-law of the Ling family, and she wasn't just the daughter of the Yu family. Why did the 3 of them still treat her as an ordinary junior who didn't know anything? In the depths of their heart, the 3 of them had never accepted the fact that Yu Bingyan had married into the Ling family. It was truly a marriage for political gain without the slightest bit of festive joy. Because of that, the 3 of them were still stuck in their old thought patterns up until now. However, the truth is the truth. Yu Manlu treated Yu Bingyan as a tool to wrestle for power and would naturally not bother about her thoughts. If not for the fact that he needed to make use of Yu Bingyan at this moment, he might not even remember that he had a niece. Yu Mantang loved his daughter dearly, and regardless if she was the daughter of the Yu family or daughter-in-law of the Ling family, she would still be his precious daughter. As for Yu Mantian, he did not even bother thinking about anything at all. Besides, he had a favorable impression of Ling Tian and doted on his niece greatly. Thus, he was actually pretty happy about the marriage. Furthermore, he didn't think that there was any difference in her status either. Wasn't his niece still his niece? Calm down, big brother. A broken bar. It is best for us to discuss this matter further, Yu Mantang persuaded. Hugging his daughter in his embrace and looking at the palm mark on her face, he felt his heart aching greatly. Yu Manlu snorted, what's there to discuss? To have such a disgraceful daughter, you are better off not having one at all. As the daughter of the Yu family, she is only thinking about outsiders and still has the cheek to say that she already belongs to another family. Does she still know what shame is? Yu Tian could no longer hold his anger and retorted in dissatisfaction. Big brother, how are Bing Yan's words unreasonable? Didn't Big Brother personally give the order to betroth Bing Yan to Ling Tian? From the moment the agreement was made with the Ling family, Bing Yan already belongs to the Ling family. Is there anything wrong with what Bing Yan said? During this battle with the Shui family, we should not have summoned Bing Yan back at all. Only direct descendants of the family are allowed to participate in the generational battle between both the families, and Bing Yan probably does not have the right to participate any longer. I feel that Big Brother is in the wrong regarding this matter. Preposterous. Yu Manlu was enraged. Did I not explain to you the reason behind my decision back then? Do you not understand the reason behind my decision? Do you think that this marriage is valid? How absurd! Why wouldn't it be valid? Yu Mantian was angered to the point his face flushed red as he retorted while panting. Big Brother personally gave the order for me to be my niece's matchmaker. The whole world already knows about this matter. What does Big Brother mean when you say that this marriage isn't valid? I would never be able to accept such a matter of going against my word. Yu Mantian's spittle flew in all directions as he continued. Why do we have to find the daughter-in-law of the Ling family to participate in the battle between the Yu and Shui family? Does our Yu family really not have anyone else? If we do not have anyone else, then since we will be sending someone to their death either way, why don't we send your new concubine instead? For us to send the daughter-in-law of the Ling family to her death, aren't we asking to get cursed by the world? Just when he was about to continue, Yu Manlu had already sent his palm flying towards Yu Mantian. With two tight slaps, Yu Mantian staggered back pathetically with a trace of blood flowing down his lips and a look of disbelief on his face. You hit me? Yu Mantian burst out like an exploding volcano. I wouldn't have anything to say if you hit me because of a mistake I made, but what did I do wrong? Am I not speaking the truth? Even if Bing Yan is a daughter of the Yu family, she is still the daughter-in-law of the Ling family. If you want to send the daughter of your own family to her death, that is completely your choice. But what right do you have to send the daughter-in-law of the Ling family to her death? What right? Because I am the family head of the Yu family. Because I am Yu Manlu. Yu Manlu glared at his third brother with fury burning in his eyes and his palms trembling slightly. I am doing all of this for the family. I am doing all of these for the foundations of the family. What don't you understand? Yu Mantian refused to back down and continued scolding. For the family? What nice words. You can be despicable just because it is for the family. You can resort to such unscrupulous means just because it is for the family. Then what is the point of the family existing? Why don't we just disband the family and go and play soccer? Your darn mother. FK your ma broken bar. Yu Mantian paused abruptly and covered his mouth with a shocked expression, but it was far too late. He immediately regretted his words and cursed his tongue for spouting out the words that it did. What did you say? That seemed to have been the spark to ignite Yu Manlu as he pounced forward to deliver a good beating. Continue scolding, a broken bar, continue a broken bar, continue a broken bar. Yu Mantian's body flew around the hall like a ball, and knowing that he was in the wrong, Yu Mantian did not dare to fight back. He guarded his head with his arms and allowed his brother to hit him as his brother wished. In any case, this wasn't the first time he was smacked in such a manner already. However, he did not cry out for mercy in the slightest, obviously still filled with anger from before. Big brother. Yu Mantang shook his head with a sigh. This was the first time in the past 10 years where his big brother was so mad. It seemed like his third brother would have to suffer greatly this time. However, Yu Mantang didn't agree with what Yu Mantian had said before and didn't agree with the scheme that his big brother had laid. However, he would not say it so openly like his foolish third brother. After all, some things should only be arranged in secret, and there wasn't a point in saying it openly. He naturally knew that Yu Mantian was being beaten up because of Yu Bingyan. As for Yu Mantian cursing Yu Manlu, all three brothers knew that it wasn't enough to ignite such terrifying anger from their big brother. With a loud bang, Yu Mantian's burly figure was slammed onto the ground and Yu Mantian was already reduced to a pig head. They were brothers after all, and Yu Manlu would never land any killing blows on Yu Mantian. However, Yu Mantian would probably need a good month or two to recover from his injuries. Bing Yan's matter shall be concluded as such. There will not be any changes. If anyone has any disagreements, they shall be punished with the crime of treason. Yu Manlu ordered coldly and flicked his sleeves, ready to take his leave. I'm unresigned. Yu Mantian stood up with his face completely swollen. I'm just unresigned. This is obviously a senseless decision, and I will oppose it even if you beat me to my death. Men, throw Third Master into the prison and allow him to sober up. Without my orders, no one shall be allowed to release him. Yu Manlu kicked Yu Mantian back to the ground before ordering, "First uncle." Yu Bingyan took a step forward and said coldly, "There isn't a need for you to waste your effort and reveal such an ugly side. Doesn't first uncle just want me to participate in the generational battle? I will just agree to it." Yu Bingyan said with disdain in her voice, as though she was trying to say that this would be the last thing that she would do for the Yu family. Bingyan, Bingyan. Both Yu Mantang and Yu Mantian cried out together with anxiousness. With the secret manual of Beyond Heavens from Senior Justice, I may not necessarily die. So what if I really die? Yu Bingyan controlled the tears in her eyes and said stubbornly. A flash could be seen in Yu Manlu's eyes and he chuckled. This is the true daughter of my Yu family. Bingyan, you a broken bar. Let me repeat myself. I am no longer a daughter of the Yu family. Your nieceling Yu Bingyan shall take her leave. Yu Bingyan chose to put the surname of Ling before the surname of Yu. Taking a bow coldly, she pulled onto her father's sleeves and walked out. Cough cough, a broken bar, big brother. I shall take my leave as well. Let me discipline this lass. Yu Mantang hurriedly gave a bow and followed his daughter out. From afar, the sound of him reprimanding his daughter could be heard. HMPH. Yu Mantian crawled up from the ground and spat a mouthful of blood out. Trying to open his swollen eyes, he growled fiercely. This daddy is still unresigned. Yu Manlu raised his arm up before letting it fall back down weakly. A lonely expression could then be seen on his face as he waved his hands weakly. Go. Seeing Yu Mantian still standing on the spot, he roared, "Scram!" Yu Mantian wobbled his way out limping as he cursed under his breath. I am just unless I need a broken bar. Even if you beat me to death, I will still be unresigned. Yu Manlu sent a palm strike to the window frame and kicked the sandalwood chair that Yu Mantian was seated in out of the door. He then let out a long sigh and quietened down. Bingyan, have you really thought things through? Your chances of making it out alive in this battle are extremely slim. It is said that Shui Qiang is a rare martial arts talent who made it into the Xianjian stage before the age of 20. Even if you receive the secret manual of Beyond Heavens, the time is far too short, and I am afraid a broken bar in the garden. Yu Mantang looked at his daughter with an unconcealed doting expression. While your name was already listed on the list for the battle, the circumstances of today are different from before. You are already the young madam of the Ling family and you can completely choose to reject going to the battle. As long as you do not want to go, no one will be able to force you if you don't want to go. Yu Bingyan lowered her head and walked silently on this familiar path. However, an extremely foreign feeling surfaced in her heart. Hearing her father's words, Yu Bingyan raised her head and shook her head with a smile. Father, ever since I was young, I was plagued with illness and have already worried both father and mother greatly. I am participating in the generational battle of the Yu family for father and not for the Yu family. If I voice my objection, father would definitely be cast out from the family with everyone gossiping about you behind your back. Father brought me up for 18 years and as your daughter I was unable to repay you with anything. The only thing I can do would be to not put you in a bad spot. Yu Bingyan leaned on her father's figure and chuckled. The words that I said in the hall were to intentionally anger first uncle. I had already made a decision about this matter before coming back. Yu Mantang felt his heart trembling as he said with agitation, but Yanner, you are using your life as the stake to enter a battle that you will almost certainly lose. You cannot afford to make the slightest mistake. Even if you have a miraculous encounter, you may not be able to deal with it. You should reconsider the matter again." Pausing for a moment, Yu Mantang lowered his voice and said with a resolute tone, "Yanner, a single word from you and even if I have to sacrifice my life, I will immediately send you back to sky bearing." Chapter 631, The Start of a Journey. Father, a broken bar. Yu Bingyan stopped walking and looked at her father with her eyes hazy. She then pounced into her father's embrace with tears streaming down her cheeks. Yu Mantang hugged his daughter tightly and was immersed in the feeling of holding his daughter in his embrace. A long while later, Yu Bingyan finally stopped sobbing and said softly, "During this trip to Heavenly Wind, while I do not dare say the same about the others, Bingyan will definitely not be in the slightest bit of danger. Father can be at ease." "Oh?" Yu Mantang frowned for a moment before breaking out into a big smile. "Did Ling Tian make an arrangement?" "What Ling Tian?" "Tanj is your son-in-law," Yu Bingyan said shyly. Yu Mantang laughed heartily. "Ha ha, that's right." "Did my son-in-law make an arrangement?" "That's right. Everything is under Tanj's control." Yu Bingyan's face reddened as she said, "Everything is under his control?" As Yu Mantang heard those words, he could not help but doubt in his heart. Since when did Ling Tian have such abilities? Yu Mantang was filled with a tinge of doubt in his heart, but after seeing his daughter's confident appearance, Yu Mantang knew that he should not say anything else. However, he was no longer as worried as before. Since Ling Tian had made preparations, Bingyan's life would definitely not be in danger. As for the preparations that Ling Tian had made, it would be the best for him to be kept out of the loop, lest he accidentally divulge it. While Yu Mantang was confident in himself, he knew that he couldn't match up to his big brother's scheming, and the best way for him to keep a secret would be to remain ignorant. Yu Bingyan lifted her head up and said, "Father, I hope that you can be a good host to the 500 guards that Ling Tian sent. After allowing them to tour Bright Jade City for a day or two, I will keep a few personal guards back and send the rest back to sky bearing." Naturally, Yu Mantang chuckled before asking his daughter, "These 500 guards are all brimming with energy and are definitely talented individuals. The few personal guards that my son-in-law picked out for you should be extremely skilled, right?" "My son-in-law is truly generous." Yu Bingyan's face turned red and she nodded her head with agreement. "I do not dare hide things from father, and any one of their martial arts would be comparable to third uncle." Yu Mantang took in a deep breath of cold air. "Every one of them is comparable to Yu Mantang?" That meant that there were at least 3 or 4 individuals with such strength. Yu Mantang was already nearing the middle gold jade rank. Apart from the few old fellows in the Yu family, there were less than 10 who were capable of winning against Yu Mantang. For an ureshii family like the Ling family, it would be already an amazing feat if Ling Tian was able to send out 4 Tian experts at once. However, Ling Tian had actually sent out 4 middle gold jade rank experts at once just for Yu Bingyan. It could be seen just how much Ling Tian doted on Yu Bingyan. Yu Mantang felt that the strength of his son-in-law was becoming more and more mysterious. Only at this point could he truly be at ease about Yu Bingyan's safety. At the same time, he was also extremely grateful on behalf of Yu Bingyan. Just from how Ling Tian was willing to send out so many experts to guard Yu Bingyan, it could be seen how happy her life was in the Ling family. Yu Mantang twiddled with his beard and muttered, "If that's the case, then you should leave a few more of them behind. Apart from your few personal guards, you should leave a few dozen guards behind to pull the wool over everyone's eyes. Even if they are capable of retracting their aura, it is best to be careful. If the family notices that they are all top-notch experts, it may cause some troubles instead. With your first uncle's personality, he may come up with a sinister plan." "Yes, father has truly thought things through." Yu Bingyan felt her heart shake and agreed solemnly. She originally only planned to keep Feng, Yun, Lei, and Dian behind, but after her father's reminder, she realized that her original plan was extremely inappropriate. With her first uncle's character, if he found out that there were such experts in the Ling family, he would definitely come up with a plan to exterminate them. Under Yu Mantang's arrangements, Ling Feng and the rest entered the Yu family in a low-profile manner. After some serious considerations, Yu Bingyan kept 60 guards behind and stationed them in the courtyard where she and her father stayed. The guards were split into 4 groups with Feng, Yan, Lei, and Dian each leading a group. They surrounded Yu Bingyan's room with a watertight defense. The Ling family was currently enemies with the Yu family in the Heavenly Star continent, and the presence of the Ling family guards naturally dissatisfied the Yu family members. Thus, conflicts between the 2 groups were inevitable, but Ling Feng and the rest chose to endure the humiliation rather than have conflicts with the Yu family members. Such a powerful mental resilience made Yu Mantang gasp with admiration. It was easy to draw the sword but difficult to bear with humiliation. Even after a month, Yu Mantang could not tell who the experts among the group were. While the Ling family guards moved into the Yu family in an orderly fashion, ever since these guards entered the Yu family, Bright Jade City was thrown into chaos. Despite it being winter, houses would catch fire all around the city for no good reason, and many would complain about thefts in their homes. The whole Yu family was filled with an extremely dark atmosphere. The Yu family monitored the movements of the 60 guards day and night, but was helpless as they realized that these 60 guards were completely stationary when all of these bizarre events occurred. Because of that, they could only helplessly proclaim them as innocent. In this winter, Bright Jade City seemed to have been through a war, and the whole city was completely devoid of energy. Finally, just when everyone was leading bitter lives, the spring winds began to blow. The atmosphere in the Yu family became even tenser. It was time for them to travel to Heavenly Wind and start the battle. Ling Tian ran out from the Ling family courtyard as though he was escaping for his life. For a full winter, Ling Tian was playing hide and seek with Ming Li and the others. Even with Ling Tian's powerful will and body, he was extremely fatigued. They were far too persistent. Ming Li and the others could not be blamed for the matter either. Ling Tian's father and grandfather were just too difficult to deal with. Old Master Ling liked to feign ignorance, and every time the officials of the imperial court requested him to ascend the throne, he would feign ignorance or pretend that he was unable to hear what they were saying. "What did you say, huh? Speak louder." "When broken bar. Broken bar, I can't hear you." His selective listening was extremely well honed, and he would never be able to hear what the officials had to say clearly. "If you have the patience, all right, I shall sit here and hear you out." But after a few sentences, Old Master Ling would be tired and falling asleep a broken bar, helpless. The various officials could only take their leave. The moment the officials took their leave, Old Master Ling would be revived and energetic, pulling his wife to play mahjong with him. As for Marshal Ling, he was far more direct. "Scram! Whoever dares to bother me shall be served with 80 military planks." Marshal Ling wasn't completely lying. He had even gone to the extent of bribing his friend to put up a show with him. His friend would first attempt to persuade him, and he would then give his friend 40 military planks in public. While everyone could tell that it was a show, they all knew that the next person who attempted to persuade Marshal Ling would definitely not be spared. Under such circumstances, they naturally had no choice but to pester Ling Tian. Thus, a rare winter break of young noble Ling Tian was completely ruined by them all. Even if he wanted to find the few beauties for a nice and lovely chat, he would have to ensure that his actions were stealthy and concealed as though he was a secret agent. He was only missing a secret code with his few lovers. A broken bar. The spring winds arrived, and the letter of the Shui family arrived together with them. The Shui family requested that Shui Qi'an leave a few people behind to guard the Shui family courtyard and send the rest of the Shui family forces back to Heavenly Wind. However, the Shui family did not specify a time and only requested that Shui Qi'an return before the start of the generational battle. To the Shui family, all of the other participants of the Shui family were already prepared. As for Shui Qi'an fighting the princess of the Yu family, there wasn't even a need to make any preparations. Thus, they weren't anxious in the slightest. Was there even a need to make any preparations when their Shui family's #1 genius was facing the martial arts trash of the Yu family? Victory was certain. However, while they weren't anxious, Ling Tian was. Ling Tian already felt as though his days were extremely miserable and anxiously pestered Shui Qian'er to leave as early as possible. At this moment, Shui Qian'er was also extremely nervous about matters in Heavenly Wind, so they swiftly tied up all the necessary loose ends and immediately set off for Heavenly Wind. Ling Tian brought Ling Jian along with him, and the both of them mysteriously disappeared from the Ling family courtyard a few days before Shui Qian'er set off. As for the various large and small matters of the courtyard, he naturally dumped them all to Meng Lij, Ling Chen, and Li Zhu. This incident made Ling Chen, Li Zhu, and Jia Yanzu blow up in a huge rage. After his pleading was completely useless in the face of the three ladies' anger, the three ladies joined hands to give Ling Tian a good beating. The person who was the happiest was dear Shui Qian'er left her behind in Heavenly Star so that she could be with her loved one, Ling Kai. This made the originally depressed Ling Kai feel a little better. Ling Tian had an inexplicable feeling in his heart at this moment. Ever since he received the 2 pieces of Heaven's Heart Jade and the mysterious phenomena it had together with the Heaven Splitter, a huge puzzle filled up Ling Tian's mind. Ling Tian was certain that there was a heaven-shaking secret hidden within this puzzle, and the source of this secret was in Heavenly Wind, right at Mount Vacant. Apart from the various plans that Ling Tian had on this trip, he also intended to solve this puzzle. At the same time, Ling Tian had a strange feeling in his heart. He was almost certain that he would definitely not return empty-handed from his trip to Heavenly Wind. After the members of the Shui family left, Meng Lij and the rest found out that Ling Tian had also disappeared and angrily stomped his way to find Ling Chen to lodge a complaint. Upon arrival, he received a letter from Ling Chen which was written by Ling Tian to persuade Old Master Ling to ascend the throne. Meng Lij then took this letter to find Old Master Ling but was reprimanded by Old Master Ling. Returning back to the courtyard dejected, Meng Lij let out a long sigh. Ling Tian was already by the sea, and upon peering into the vast ocean, the words that appeared during the combination of the 2 jade pieces surfaced in his heart. Vacant in the east, heaven and earth essence. Sharpness of Heaven Splitter, it can be fought. Ling Tian muttered those words in his heart as he fell into a daze with a Heaven Splitter hanging on his waist. Chapter 632, Romantic Sea Journey. Young Noble, should we wait for Miss Shui before we leave? By the side, Ling Jian, garbed in black robes, looked at the beautiful scenery opposite him with nary a change in emotion. If we go without them, do you think that you, Jian, will know the exact route to traverse the ocean? How about we just rent a small boat and let you row us across? Ling Jian let out a snort as he joked towards Ling Jian. An embarrassed expression appeared on Ling Jian's face as he replied, I've indeed not put enough thought into this. However, if we follow behind them, it will result in inconveniences on our part. Are we just going to tolerate it? Ling Jian only let out a long sigh as he gazed at Ling Jian with the eyes used to look at an idiot. Jian, why is it that your IQ seems to have fallen to rock bottom today? If we swagger on to the continent just like that, wouldn't we end up as live targets? Even if your capabilities have reached the state of being on par with justice, you still can't fight off an entire continent's worth of people, right? Heavenly Wind Continent is also the territory of the Shui family, tens of thousands of people. Ling Jian finally failed to rein in his emotions and turned red with embarrassment and shame as he hung his head down. However, this made him neglect the sly look that passed through Ling Jian's face at this moment. How dare this Ling Jian try to act cool in front of me? It's already good that I don't beat you to death on the spot. However, in this present age and time, probably only Ling Jian and a few other people would actually dare to insult the #1 assassin like that. After waiting for another couple of days, Shui Qian'er brought the remaining 400-odd members of the Shui family as they sped towards Ling Tian's location. Shui Qian'er was at the vanguard, and her snow-white fur coat fluttered in the cold wind which matched her expression. Her eyes continuously roamed around her surroundings, as though searching for something. Just by looking at the position Shui Qian'er was in currently, one would immediately understand that inside this group of 400 people, Shui Qian had already obtained absolute authority over them. After the great battle that day, the remaining 4 elders as well as Shui Qian Hai and Shui Qian Hu no longer posed any threat towards her. With a whistle, all 400 men stopped their horses orderly. Shui Qian straightened her back, anxiously looking around in her surroundings. A disappointed look flashed across her eyes and she waved her hands. A few of the Shui family disciples withdrew long bugle horns, before blowing hard into them. The blare of the bugle sounded from all around them, traveling to the horizon. After a while, in the midst of the lush shrubbery of water plants, 3 huge ships slowly appeared, navigating towards where the Shui family members were. At the same time, the flag on the ship was hoisted, and a huge Shui word was proudly displayed. "Little princess, the ships are here, please board." A burly man jumped off the boat and saluted from afar. Shui Qian hesitated. That damned guy, why wasn't he here yet? Where did he run to this time? After this, the scenario would no longer be in her control. Having agreed with Ling Tian to meet him at this place, Shui Qian could not help but feel a sense of loss at not even being able to catch a glimpse of his shadow. Tears threatened to flow out of her eyes at this point. However, a sudden teasing voice sounded softly near her. "Little princess, the ships are already here. What are you waiting for? Could it be that you're waiting for your lover? Haha, a broken bar." Shui Qian immediately flared up, but the next moment, her body stiffened as she turned around. Beside her, a foot soldier with a waxy complexion wagged his brows at her as he laughed, revealing a perfect set of pearly white teeth. Shui Qian heavily snorted, and putting on an angry expression, she spat. "Who do you think you are, to question me as to when I want to board the ship? I'll personally come out with a punishment for you later. You will not be spared so easily." Saying this, she commanded, "Elders, board the second boat, and my 2 cousins the third. As for the disciples, 100 of you will follow me to the first boat." The few elders sighed as they quietly walked towards the second boat. All of them were wily old foxes, so how could they not tell that Shui Qian had already lost all respect for them in her eyes? However, this was them reaping what they sowed, and they could not blame it on anyone else. Shui Qian evilly smiled as he spoke. "Little sister, we're finally going back. Are you prepared?" Before the ship came, he would not dare to say these words even if he were to be threatened with death. One had to know that in this year or so, Shui Qian had perfectly cemented her position as the absolute head in Heavenly Star Continent, and if he dared to step out of line, Shui Qian would not hesitate to take care of him. Originally, Shui Qian Hai thought that since their family's ships had arrived, then the final say would return to the elders. That was why he dared to open his mouth. However, Shui Qian merely gave him a glare as she replied, "Who are you to ask what I plan to do? I'll count to 3, if by then you're not done with your nonsense and on the boat, then I'll leave you here to fend for yourself. See if I dare." Shui Qian Hai flushed red with anger and embarrassment, and in his moment of impulse, wanted to rush up towards her to attack. At this time, Shui Qian merely lifted up her right hand as she coldly spat out, "1." A tremor passed through his body when Shui Qian Hai saw her icy cold expression. Upon thinking how she had killed so ruthlessly in this period of time, he knew that if he did not choose the soft way and instead wanted to go head to head against her, Shui Qian would definitely throw him down here. Viciously snorting, he turned around to board the third boat. Shui Qian stood outside her own room, staring frostily at the soldier who misspoke previously. In a stern voice, she snapped, "That brat who doesn't know how to respect his superiors, stay here. The rest of you, leave." The group immediately tucked their heads in, casting glances of pity at the unlucky fool and praying for him in their hearts. What luck, to anger the little princess just as they were returning a broken bar. No matter what was the case, they could not afford to lose themselves in joy. Everyone came to the same conclusion and shook their heads in schadenfreude as they left. There was a jerk and a shift and the sea began to churn as they moved off. The sails of the 3 ships were unfurled high up, fully catching the wind as they produced flapping sounds. Closing the room door, The fear on the waxy warrior's face suddenly vanished as he grinned. I've come as promised. I'm not sure how little princess plans to punish me. Are you going to treat me a lesson now, as to who is the master and who is the servant? Shui Qianru returned the stare angrily, before suddenly bursting into laughter as she stepped forward and threw herself into his chest. Her tiny fists hammered repeatedly on his chest as though punishing a broken bar, although it was completely ineffective. A broken bar. I thought that you would really not turn up. A broken bar. It scared me to death. With reddened eyes, Shui Qianru pouted. If I did not turn up a broken bar, then wouldn't little princess not have anyone to punish in the first place? That waxy-faced person was actually Ling Tian. HMPH, even if you carry a broken bar, I must still punish you. Who allowed you to scare me? Isn't it right that I get to punish you? Her head still stuck within his bosom, Shui Qianru threatened. All right. When has our Princess Shui ever been wrong? This subordinate willingly accepts his punishment. Quickly punish me then, Ling Tian lecherously spoke. Following that, he immediately bent his head down and captured those tiny cherry lips of hers, and his hands moved to slither into her robes like a snake, caressing her smooth skin and capturing two proud and lofty rabbits. Shui Qianru's body softened, and she collapsed into Ling Tian's chest as though she did not have a single bone within her body. Her face was completely red, and her mesmerized eyes lightly closed shut even as her mouth vigorously responded. A broken bar. It was only after a long time did the muffled voice of Ling Tian sound out. A broken bar. Do you still wish to punish me? Little princess, just how are you going to punish me? I'm so scared thinking about idle broken bar. A broken bar? You a broken bar baddie. Shui Qianru was totally breathless at this point, her eyes dazed. Ling Tian immediately applied some pressure to something in the middle of his fingers, and Shui Qianru immediately let out a breathy wail, her eyelashes fluttering. To think that the proud and lofty little princess actually sent all her men on board after, so she could have an affair with her subordinate. A broken bar. Leaning down towards her ear, Ling Tian lightly whispered. No, a broken bar. That's not the case. Don't a broken bar make blatant assumptions. I didn't do anything. A broken bar. Shui Qianru still tried to resist. No? Then what are we doing now? Ling Tian lightly bit onto her earlobe as his tongue flicked on it. His left hand was left caressing her chest as his right hand slowly explored down her smooth back, before suddenly and fiercely grabbing onto her pert buttocks, and giving in a good squeeze and knead. Shui Qianru immediately let out a moan, and her legs clamped together. Her body lurched forward all of a sudden from the momentum, and her lips locked onto Ling Tian, her face drunken with pleasure. Tackling her from 3 different angles, Ling Tian now felt as though he was holding onto a ball of soft fluffy dough. He could not resist but whisper temptingly into her ear, Little princess, to have this subordinate serve you personally. Do you feel good? The lady in question wiggled around sinuously like a snake, gripping him tightly as she stabilized herself on his body before moaning softly, A broken bar feels good. A broken bar. Then do you still dare to punish me in the future? Ling Tian immediately pressed his advantage. No, a broken bar. I don't dare anymore. A broken bar. I won't do it anymore. A broken bar. Shui Qianru was close to losing her sanity. That good. In the future, only I can bully you and punish you. Who's the master and who's the servant? Are you clear now? Up a broken bar to you. You can bully me however you want. A broken bar, and punish me broken bar however you want. A broken bar. The moment she finished speaking, her body suddenly tightened and went taut. Her mouth opened and bit hard onto Ling Tian's shoulder in order to stifle her moans. Even as her body began to convulse. Broken bar. Ling Tian felt a sharp pain, and he did not know whether to laugh or cry as he looked at the beautiful woman in his arms. How could this be? He had barely started, and had just touched her a few times, as well as spoke a few words, but she actually a broken bar surrendered just like that? She's really too sensitive. Listening to the crash of the waves against the ship from the outside, a fire suddenly lit up in the depths of his eyes. Stretching out his hands, He manhandled the still panting Shui Qian'er up into his arms as he walked towards the posh bed in the room. "Nah, broken bar, no." Shui Qian'er could acutely feel what Ling Tian was attempting and immediately began to panic and struggle. "Right now a broken bar we can't." "You're already comfortable, but I'm feeling extremely pain at a broken bar." Ling Tian stared at her with deep eyes, as he enticed. "You must know, these a broken bar, I've held it in for a long time." "Still a no." Shui Qian'er's face flushed red, but her expression remained resolute. "If I lose my maidenhood now a broken bar when I return, the family will immediately realize it, and that wouldn't be good." "Then what do we do?" Ling Tian felt as though his smaller self down below was on the verge of exploding. He wanted to cry but no tears would come out. If he knew this was going to happen, then he wouldn't have approached her to do such a thing. But now he was akin to an arrow knocked on a bowstring. A broken bar, she was probably going to kill him through blue balls. However, his eyes twinkled as a thought ran past his mind. He immediately put on an agonized expression as he cried out, "If we can't do that a broken bar, then how about a broken bar? You use a broken bar." Hearing this, Shui Qian'er flushed red all the way to her neck, retorting on shame and embarrassment. "No way, how could I use a broken bar?" She could not even say the final word before she buried herself into Ling Tian's chest. "If this won't do, and that won't do either, you a broken bar, are you trying to murder your husband here?" Ling Tian's eyes displayed anxiety. "What the FK, could it be that even though this daddy here has so many peerless beauties by his side, he still had to use his 5 ladies to do the job? Is it really a broken bar that painful?" Shui Qian'er bit on her full lips, hesitating for a long while before she finally lowered her head, whispering in a mosquito-like voice, "Then a broken bar just this once." Her voice was barely a whisper, to the point if Ling Tian had not advanced in cultivation, he would definitely be unable to hear her speak. Even so, Shui Qian'er was completely red the moment this sentence slipped out. "Alright." Ling Tian was overjoyed. He. After once, the moment there is a precedent, there will definitely be a second time. Shui Qian'er's body began to tremble a little. "Then a broken bar, how do I do it?" "Let me teach you. First, you kneel down. A broken bar sitting will also do." Ling Tian could not wait to begin a broken bar. A broken bar. After a long time, Ling Tian slowly walked out feeling refreshed, leaning on the railings of the ship as he watched it sail through the sea that was like a huge piece of blue-green jade. His emotions were extremely relaxed at this moment. From behind him, disorderly footsteps sounded as Shui Qian'er walked over. The blush on her face had not faded even till now, and she coughed twice with her head lowered. "What's wrong? Did you choke on something? It can't be that you're expecting, right? Am I going to be promoted?" Ling Tian put on a face of concern. "As if it wasn't because of you a broken bar, you baddie." Shui Qian'er angrily threw him a glare, before her hand shot like a hidden weapon to his waist and pinching it hard. Then she decided it was insufficient to quell her anger, and immediately twisted the flesh she was holding. Ling Tian's face scrunched up together into a pout as he gritted his teeth and screamed, "Pain a broken bar, you're too vicious. This punishment is too ruthless." Shui Qian'er snorted hatefully, before coming up to his side. She allowed the wine to freely tousle her hair as she gazed at Ling Tian with a look of pride on her face, saying, "Have you seen the ocean before? It's majestic, right?" "Seen the ocean before?" Ling Tian felt a little giddy at the thought of this question. "Lass, who do you think you're talking to? This young noble here even swam across the Pacific in his past life. Did you think that I had never seen an ocean before?" "No, I haven't. I was still thinking that it looks like a large river." He rubbed his nose, feeling a little miffed. "River?" Shui Qian'er laughed so hard, her eyes turned into crescents. "Could the river at your territory be so vast and without end?" "You bumpkin." She flirtatiously flicked at Ling Tian's head playfully. "Lasser, you might not think it true, but in at most 5 years, this ocean here will become a river, and I'll name it Quicksand River." Ling Tian replied a little matter-of-factly. However, a cunning gleam went unnoticed in his eyes. "I don't believe it." Shui Qian'er spoke with absolute confidence. "An ocean is an ocean, so how could it turn into a river? Are you dreaming? How about we make a bet?" The hint of a scheme grew even stronger in Ling Tian's smile, fine. Why would I not dare to bet on something that I'll win? Shui Qianru was smug. What a joke, even a god couldn't turn an ocean into a river, what more Ling Tian who was immortal? Alright, if you win, then I'll listen to whatever you want to do in the future. Ling Tian grinned as he stroked his chin, expectant of the future. And if I lose? Shui Qianru's eyes gleamed. If you lose? Ling Tian let out an evil laugh. Then, whatever happened within the room just now, you're to provide it to me whenever I ask for it. Chapter 633, Rocky Pier. Shui Qianru's face flushed red and her eyes widened. She was angered to the point she could not even say a thing. Too much. He is going too far. Why? Don't you dare? Ling Tian chuckled and provoked her. Why won't I dare to? It's a deal. If you lose, will you listen to whatever I say? Shui Qianru said fiercely. Of course, even if you ask me to eat mud, I will listen. It's a gamble. Shui Qianru agreed as she thought about the different ways to teach this horrible fellow in front of her a lesson after winning the bet. All of a sudden, a smirk could be seen on her face. Ling Tian, I am going to teach you a lesson for underestimating this young miss. Ling Tian had a delighted smile on his face. Do you really think that I can't take care of you? You must be dreaming. I heard that the emperors of the previous generations have the authority to rename rivers and oceans. A broken bar. A broken bar. Watching the slow-flowing river water with a frown, Ling Tian asked, how long more would it take before we can reach Heavenly Wind? With this speed of ours and the distance between both the continents, it would take quite some time, right? Shui Qianru raised her head and looked at the sails before revealing a satisfied smile. It won't be too long. As long as the wind direction doesn't change, we would only need 10 days to reach the Shui family pier in Heavenly Wind. 10 days? Ling Tian was baffled. We actually need such a long time? This isn't considered long? Ling Tian had not went out to sea before, or more accurately, he had never went out to sea on such a backward boat. In his previous life, even if one wanted to travel half the earth, a few days would be sufficient. But in this generation where transport was still undeveloped, their journey would definitely take a much longer time. Shui Qianru smiled and put her fringe behind her ears. Her actions were gentle and beautiful with a tinge of pride. This is already considered extremely fast. If not for our special Shui family ship, an ordinary ship would require at least twice the time. Of course, if the heavens help us and send a strong gust of northeast wind, the time taken would be reduced by 1 to 2 days. Special Shui family ship? A tortoise like this? Ling Tian rolled his eyes and said, what if the wind blows in the southwest direction? Would that mean that we will end up in Heavenly Star? Shui Qianru covered her mouth and burst out laughing. You really don't understand anything. I was still wondering if there is anything in the world that young noble Ling is ignorant of. Ling Tian chuckled. He was truly ignorant in this aspect. Since when would he ride such a backward boat in his previous life? Such a boat would have been sent to a museum already and everyone would only fly wherever they went. Only during a holiday would they take a cruise and enjoy on the sea. However, young noble Ling would not have such a luxury or opportunity in his previous life. A water wheel is located at the bottom of the boat. Silly fellow. Shui Qianru was extremely satisfied at the opportunity to see Ling Tian stumped. How about it? Young noble Ling's sides must have been widened, right? The water wheel of our Shui family was made specially and is definitely the fastest of its kind. I am not a celestial. How can I know everything? Ling Tian smiled bitterly. Such a boat and such a speed can actually be considered the fastest of its kind? It can only travel 60 miles in 2 hours and you really treat it as some high-tech boat? When we arrive at Heavenly Wind, are you going to follow me, or a broken bar? Shui Qianru grit her teeth and drew circles with her feet. After reaching land, we will have to split up for a while. However, I will definitely rush over by 3rd March to witness the battle between the elites of both families, Ling Tian said with a smile. 3rd March, Mount Vacant gathering of tigers and dragon, heavens and earth the overturned. This is the tradition of 1,000 years. Every 60 years, The two families would gather on 3rd March for a battle between dragons and tigers. Oh, as Shui Qian'er calculated the dates, it was 1st February today, and after 10 days of travel, they would only part for 20+ days. She immediately felt a sense of sourness in her heart. After being used to spending every day together with Ling Tian, she was not willing to part with her beloved one. During this generational battle, which family do you wish to win? Just what is your plan? Shui Qian'er changed the topic. It is not my wish, but the truth is before our eyes. Ling Tian sighed and looked at her with a trace of pity. Comparing the strength of both your families, your Shui family will lose for sure without the slightest chance of victory. What you should be considering now is how you should lose. You should be considering how you can preserve the descendants of your faction while sacrificing the pillars of your uncles. This would also help you to achieve the upper hand in future as well. Shui Qian'er lowered her head depressedly. While she was already prepared for such an outcome, she still felt a tinge of bitterness in her heart. After all, the reputation of her family would be harmed, and as the daughter of the Shui family, she naturally didn't feel good. There isn't any meaning to the victory of a so-called a-generational battle. If the Shui family emerges victorious, it would only speed up the death of your Shui family. Ling Tian glared at her. Shui Wubo and the others would definitely send out all of their experts in the generational battle to attain the best possible results so that they can suppress your factions with merits. With their outstanding merits, they would be able to suppress your faction and attain victory in this factional battle. At that time, it would be time for a change in leader for your Shui family. This would be an unchangeable truth at that time. Shui Qian'er let out a long sigh, and the two of them stared at the river for a long time without saying a thing. 3 days later, the boats of the Yu family also entered the ocean. At the same time, Beyond Heaven's boat carried 4 individuals and entered the ocean stealthily. On the other side of the ocean in a rocky pier, the Shui family members had already began setting up their defenses. As the troops of the Shui family gathered at the pier, the irreverent people tactfully took their leave. The number 3 character of the Shui family, Shui Mancheng, walked out of the carriage with a solemn expression. As he looked at the ocean before him, his eyes were filled with anger and resentment. Shui Mancheng was the father of Shui Qianzhang. During his trip to Heavenly Star, Shui Qianzhang lost his life in a foreign land. For Shui Mancheng to take the initiative to lead the soldiers over, who knows what he was thinking about? Why couldn't the one who died by Shui Qian'er or Shui Qianhuan? Why must it be my son? Why would that darn Beyond Heavens be willing to save Shui Qianhuan but not my son? Shui Mancheng cried out in his heart countless of times. As time went by, he sank deeper and deeper into his anger and hatred. Since my son is dead, all of you should not think about leading a good life either. Regardless of who you are, I will ensure that you pay a heavy price. Another wave of commotion could be heard and another carriage arrived. A feminine voice then sounded. I was wondering who it was. It turns out to be third uncle. Shui Mancheng looked at the teen in front of him and forced out a smile. So it is nephew Huang Fu who has arrived. I wonder what nephew is here for? The young teen's face was slightly pale and his eyes drowsy as though he was drunk. With a smile, he said, I heard that younger sister is coming back and I am here to receive her. Shui Mancheng snorted and was extremely frustrated. This young teen was the young noble of the Huang Fu family, the second largest aristocratic family in Heavenly Wind, only second to their Shui family. His name was Huang Fujun, and after a chance encounter with Shui Qian'er 3 years ago, he stuck on to Shui Qian'er shamelessly and resorted to every possible mean he had up his sleeves to gain Shui Qian'er's favor. He swore that he would return with the beauty in his arms, and his actions frustrated Shui Qian'er greatly. While the Huang Fu family had the title of an aristocratic family, they did not have the history of one. The Huang Fu family had only existed for 100+ years, and with the Huang Fu family's fame, even the direct descendants of the family would not have the rights to even think about marrying the treasured daughter of the Shui family head. However, the sudden changes in the Shui family over the past few years had greatly damaged the standing of the Shui family in Heavenly Wind. Thus, even if the strength of the Huang Fu family couldn't be compared to the Shui family, They could not be underestimated. Witnessing the internal struggles and external problems of the Shui family, if Shui Qian'er was married to Wang Fujun in return for the support of the Wang Fu family, the Wang Fu family would provide a huge boost to the strength of the family head's faction. Together with the fact that Wang Fujun could be considered to be a young and talented individual, Shui Mankong was willing to approve the marriage. If not for the upcoming battle with the Yu family, Shui Qian'er would probably be planning her marriage the moment she returned to Heavenly Wind. Of course, Shui Mancheng's faction would not willingly allow the strength of the family head's faction to be strengthened and opposed vehemently to the marriage. Now that their faction was about to gain the upper hand, how would they be willing to allow the Wang Fu family to interfere in the Shui family affairs? Thus, Shui Mancheng and Wang Fujun would naturally not be friendly with each other. The two of them stood side by side with a fake smile on their faces as though they were extremely close to each other as they looked at the vast ocean. All of a sudden, the sound of galloping horses could be heard again and a troop of over 1,000 men came from afar with their destination being the pier. Could there be a third party? Which force did this party belong to? A sharp whistle sounded and the sprinting horses stopped immediately, filling the place with silence. A powerful aura swept past the pier and everyone who was at the pier could not help but be taken aback. How disciplined! How could such troops be an unknown force? Before the dust could settle, a loud roar sounded. The Sky Alliance is here for business. Everyone in front of us are to give way immediately. None of you are to move without orders. Those who defy my orders shall be killed without mercy. They were actually from the Sky Alliance. They were actually the most frightening bandit organization in the Heavenly Wind continent, the Sky Alliance. However, the Shui family forces were here today to receive their own troops, but what were the members of the Sky Alliance doing here? Shui Mancheng shouted out. I am Shui Mancheng from the Shui family. I wonder which Hall Master from the Sky Alliance is here today? His voice echoed out with prestige, fully displaying his profound inner chi. The Sky Alliance would usually send out their 9 Hall Masters for business, and there were only a few individuals in the world who knew the existence of the 3 leaders. However, no one had ever seen these 3 leaders before, and they were extremely mysterious characters on the continent. Shui Mancheng would naturally ask for which Hall Master had arrived and not which leader. After a long pause, a deep and firm voice sounded. So it is 3rd Master Shui. I am Tianzi. His voice spread out afar and the might of his voice was even above that of Shui Mancheng. Everyone was dumbfounded. What an entrance! The most mysterious leader of the Sky Alliance had actually made a personal appearance. Chapter 634, The Pitiful Wang Fu. Shui Mancheng as well as Wang Fujun both took in a breath of cold air, looking at each other in dismay. What exactly happened, to have this great malicious star personally come out? What they could confirm was that since it was Tianzi that came, then the troops that they brought to Rocky Pier would be insufficient. Shui Mancheng's expression was heavy as he spoke. So it turns out that the one who calls the shots is here. I apologize for my lack of respect. Shui Mancheng of the Shui family has embarrassed himself. The moment he finished speaking, he passed down the command to allow the groups to give way. At the same time, he signaled to an aide close to him, with the intention of asking him to report this matter to their family. The army shifted towards the two sides like the tide receding, revealing a wide road of about 50 feet wide. The dull hoofbeats of the war horses sounded as 3 people seated side by side leisurely made their way over. The person in the center was tall and sturdy, as though he was a god. On his face was a golden mask, and when the rays of light shone down, it reflected the light everywhere, causing everyone to not dare to stare at him. On his left was someone wearing a silver mask, his body not moving a single inch despite being on the horse, while to his right, the person wore a copper mask with a ferocious expression. Shui Mancheng's face turned pale white as an unbelievable thought ran past his head. How could it be that the top 3 figures of the Sky Alliance had come today? If it was really them, then what would their motive be? This was hard to believe. When the golden masked man, Jianzi turned to face him. Everyone scrambled out of the way, only leaving Shui Mancheng as he stood in the center all alone. He mustered his courage to cup his fists as he politely asked, "You must be the great Mr. Jian? Might I know the identities of the other two?" "This one is Jianzi." The silver-masked man cupped his hand, yet did not get down the horse, his voice harsh and grating. "This one is Jianzi." There seemed to be a smiling intention behind the voice of the copper mask, and the speaker seemed to be genuinely friendly at least. Shui Mancheng's expression changed at this time, as his voice trembled. "It is indeed the three of you great misters." Shui Mancheng from the Shui family actually had failed to entertain angels unawares, to fail to recognize such famous people. However, deep inside his heart, he felt fear. For these three to come over and survey the area, just what sort of matter was it that required the three of them to combine forces in order to accomplish their task? The more Shui Mancheng thought about it, the more scared he became. The only person here that could possibly even force the three of them to come over would only be Broken Barmy. Could it be that they came here to silence me? After thinking of this, his face had already turned pale. Standing by the side, Wang Fujun evidently came to the same conclusion, and a look of schadenfreude flashed across his eyes. He suddenly took a step forward and kneeled on the ground as he exclaimed, "This one comes from the Wang Fu family and is named Jun. I pay my respects to the three great figures. Your names and reputations have traveled far and wide, shaking the heavens and earth. To have the fortune of meeting your imposing bearings today, it is indeed a wish of a lifetime." "Wang Fu Jun?" The man in copper mask repeated the name slowly, before a hint of a smiling intent appeared in his eyes. "You must be a descendant of the Wang Fu aristocratic family." "That's right, the current young master of the Wang Fu family goes by this name too. How did you end up here?" Seeing how the other party was actually aware of his hand, as well as the goodwill he showed, Wang Fujun inwardly exclaimed with joy. However, his attitude remained respectfully as he replied, "It is indeed I. And having such great figures recognizing me really fills me with pride and honor. My purpose of coming here today is actually to escort Miss Shui." "Shui Qian, Miss Shui." The eyes inside the copper mask shone, even as he smilingly replied, "The Wang Fu family members are almighty and imposing characters, so how can I not know of them?" 30. Don't be so corny. You're making me have goosebumps. The eyes of the silver-masked man showed some dissatisfaction as he coldly replied. All of a sudden, there were light flapping sounds, as three messenger pigeons flew up from behind the Shui family. The golden-masked man gave out a cold snort, and behind him, a man stood on horseback from within the Sky Alliance's troops. Knocking his arrows and pulling on the bow, three long arrows shot out at practically the same time, and the three messenger pigeons uniformly dropped from the sky as well. Shui Mancheng's face turned pale as death. The silver-masked man, Jianzi, let out a weird laugh as he gazed at Shui Mancheng, coldly remarking, "Third Master Shui, you don't have to be too anxious. Our motive here does not involve you. We will stay in our own lane and mind our own business. It's just that we do not wish for others to know of our presence here." But if Third Master Shui does not know how to keep his birds in check, then it is unknown where the arrows will end up next. "Definitely, just now, my men were careless and alarmed the three of you. I beg your pardon for that." A broken bar. Shui Mancheng's heart also settled. While Jianzi's words were grating to the ear, he had revealed the crucial point. They had their own matters to solve by coming here, and it was because they did not wish to be interrupted while doing so that they chose not to let anyone know of their presence. So long as they were not coming for him, then there was not much need to care. Upon coming to this conclusion, the Third Master Shui felt his shoulders relax and had a euphoric feeling as though he had been dragged to heaven from hell. From start to the end, the copper-masked man had been staring at Wang Fujun, with a strange posture. 30. What are you looking at? The man with the gold mask, Jianzi, spoke in a low tone, curious. That brat is the first in line for succession at the Wang Fu aristocratic family. He's called Wang Fujun. Jianzi made a knowing gesture towards him. Interesting? How interesting is that? The gold-masked man snorted through his nose. 30. This person is just a mere Huang Fu family member. How is it interesting to look at someone with just this much of ability? I feel you're slipping backward as time passes. A mere Huang Fu aristocratic noble isn't anything. Funa broken bar. Tianzi let out a weird laugh before continuing. But this young noble Huang Fu actually came all the way here just to welcome the little princess Shuiqi honor. From what I heard, this person is totally infatuated with Miss Shui. And Shui Man can't even has intentions to betroth his daughter to him. Do you think a broken bar there's going to be a good show to watch later on? Oh, a broken bar, ha 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 ha, a broken bar. In that case, things should get pretty interesting. Jianzi also burst out into laughter, his eyes immediately turning towards Huang Fu Jun, as though he had seen a valuable artifact. Since the young noble Huang Fu is present, then no matter what, things are bound to get interesting. Really interesting. If that young noble Huang Fu were to perform some kind of emotional play right here and then, and our young noble is informed of it, things would get even better. What do you guys think? Standing by the side eavesdropping, Jianzi suddenly blurted out while in deep thought. Young noble will definitely catch wind of this, and I can also roughly estimate his reaction. The entire process will be amusing at the very least. Jianzi let out an unbridled laugh. Our young noble is extremely harsh and severe when it comes to this particular area. If one really angers him, then I guess the Song family can laugh their way up the ranks. The only problem left a broken bar is that since we did not help the young noble to clear the path beforehand, do you think the young noble will punish us for not doing a good job? The Song family was the aristocratic family that was ranked directly behind the Huangfus. To say such a thing, the hidden intention behind it was really obvious. A broken bar. He definitely won't. How could young noble be such a petty person? Besides, the great Miss Shui could be said to be the belle of this area. Even if we wish to clean the path for young noble, we might not even manage to clear them all. From my sources, another of her die-hard pursuers is the second young master of the Song family, and he has already wooed Miss Shui for a few years. Coupled with this young noble Huang Fu, they are akin to fellow sufferers who can empathize with each other. Jianzi stroked his chin as he replied in Schadenfreude. What astute eyesight they have. Jianzi could not help but praise. To be able to see where danger lies and leap towards it. It could be said that their eyesight is indeed the best. I really pity the Huang Fu family, to have actually given birth to such a malignant star for a grandson that could potentially destroy the entire family. Jianzi sighed as he shook his head. As though that was not enough to describe the magnitude, he sighed once again. The pitiful Song family too, to have given birth to such a sentimental fool. The three of them burst out into laughter, pleased as punch. Their laughing was, however, going a little overboard, and everyone stared at them, unable to make out heads or tails as to what they meant. Shui Manchang and Huang Fujun exchanged looks simultaneously, wondering why the three leaders of the Sky Alliance had suddenly burst into laughter like complete lunatics. Huang Fujun even noticed them sizing him up as they laughed, and mistakenly thought that they were expressing goodwill towards him. He nodded his head from afar to signal his goodwill happily, thinking deep in his heart that he had probably caught the eye of the three leaders. If they were able to support and aid him, the status of the Huang Fu aristocratic family would then rise up by another notch, and this might even allow him to obtain the hand of the little princess he was wooing. Say, big bro, do you think that heavenly wind is going to welcome a period of excitement and liveliness, now that the young noble is coming over? Jianzi seemed to be a little nervous but at the same time expectant. The person who replied him was surprising Jianzi instead. Still need to think. I'm already seeing the scene of corpses strewn all over the heavenly wind continent, blood flowing like rivers, and bones piled up like mountains. Jianzi and Jianzi immediately let out expressions of shock. Such a tragic scenario? Why are we unaware of such a matter? Jianzi snorted as he looked down in disdain at his two elder brothers. His voice turned hoarse as he continued, you guys should also know that on this journey, his aide is not Sister Chen, but rather Jianj. If it was just to explore and sightsee, why would he bring along this butcher who has the most blood on his hands? Since he has come, you guys should be aware of exactly what will happen when he's around. The other two immediately let out an involuntary shiver. looking to their left and right, before Tianzi warned with some lingering fear. Damn it, 30, it's good that you know it, but do you have to go around and spread it out? If you want to speak, at least be more discreet. If Jianzhi were to hear this phrase, then the three of us would have been ruined by you. Jianzi let out a faint smile. That definitely will not happen. At the most, if Jianzhi hears it, only the two of you will be punished. Why is that so? The two of them could not wrap their minds around it. That's because I'll let Jianzhi know that this sentence was spoken by you. Didn't you two notice that when I spoke just now, the tone was exactly like yours? As for me, I will be the righteous one that will reprimand you two for saying such words, and maybe Jianzhi will even impart to me some sort of tactics to reward me. You good for nothing, your son will definitely not have an anus when he's born. Jianzi got into a fury, grabbing hold of his neck and shaking thoroughly. See what I can do to you, little brat. Jianzi was shaken so hard that his eyes rolled all over the place, screaming for mercy all the way. Standing by the side, Jianzi had zero intentions to help, instead watching a good show. Suddenly, the crowd by the shore started to move, and some people lowly spoke, "They're here." The three of them instantly sobered up and stood on the backs of their horses as they gazed towards the sea. On the horizon, one could see three black dots the size of bins, and following the passage of time, they slowly grew bigger and bigger. They were currently the size of goose eggs. The three Tian brothers were brimming with excitement. This literally felt like a lifetime ago. How many years had it been? They were about to meet their savior, the person which they held the firmest of beliefs towards. On the shore, Shui Manching's eyes let out sparks of hatred as he clenched his fists under the robe. He muttered to himself, "You guys are back, yet my son, my only son, is doomed to wander on the other side for eternity." Shui Qian, there's no way for you to dismiss this just like that. I will definitely not forgive you. Thank you for your continued following. Please support us by subscribe to encourage our continued creation, and press the bell to notify new chapter from us. Thank you.